Welcome to the Off Leash Podcast with Dr. Pete. I am your co-host, Molly Van Branken, and we are so glad that you joined us for today's show. Remember, we are not here to say what you want us to say. We are here to be an advocate for you and your pet. And speaking of advocacy for your pet, we did something a little different this week. We sent out an email asking people what their questions are for Dr. Pete. And we got a lot of very good responses, wouldn't you say?
We did, and we're going to answer those today. And, if I was going to send an email back and answer it, it'd be a short answer. But in this format, I can give you the long part of the question. So that's probably helpful for everybody.
Yes. So we are going to do things a little different today, mix it up, and go through and read some questions. So maybe we'll make this a regular part of our show. And I don't know, once a month, send out a questionnaire of what people want to ask. And we kind of do something similar on our Instagram. We do Dr. Pete in the office on Tuesdays, but he only has about a minute to answer every question. And if you know Dr. Pete like I do, he is a long-winded guy. He likes to chat and he likes to give good answers. So that's what we're doing today, giving some good answers. I am ready whenever you are.
I'll have at her.
All righty. The first question came to us today from Janet. She said, I feed my dog the same volume of food every day. He gets about the same amount of activity every day. He's a herding dog. Sometimes he gains weight, sometimes loses. Does the digestive energy value of your food change much from bag to bag? Because I don't know what else would explain this.
Okay, well, let me tell you something about us. We send every load we get, a new load of food or a new batch of food, we send a sample in and we have it analyzed. Okay, and it comes back spot on. So it may move a little bit on one of the minerals, or it may move a little bit on one of the proteins. And sometimes it's kind of like, you're getting, if you're going to use corn, it may be corn from Iowa, it may be corn from Illinois, it may be corn from Nebraska. But it's going to be corn. So it's going to be pretty similar. Everything's the same, just about everything. Now listen, I'll tell you this right now. We have had things start to stray a little bit, and then we have to analyze everything and figure it all out and figure out why it's strayed and what we're going to have to do to put it back exactly where it belongs. And that's happened probably in the 5 years that I've been here, or since we've been making dog food, probably one time. So that's
we've thrown batches away because they haven't matched specs, right?
We've don't know that we've ever actually thrown anything away. We've had some samples done, and they didn't respect. So then what we do, that's kind of how you refine this, because in theory you're going to make a food a certain way, and this is the way you think it's going to operate. In fact, just so you know, I own a pet store. So when we first started, we'd make 15, 16, 17,000 pounds of food, and then we put it in the store, and then we'd see. Do the dogs like it? Does it like the dogs? Does it do what it's supposed to do? And if it does what it's supposed to do, I'm good with it. So generally, when we've ever had to fix anything, we fix it before we put it in our warehouse here. So I don't think we've had anything come in our warehouse where we actually sent it back at all.
Okay. So that's a good answer for Janet.
Yep.
So what do you think is causing the weight loss and weight gain?
Well, the first thing I'd ask her, are you giving treats, and how many treats are you giving? And hey, listen, is this a dog that goes out and eats is this a working dog?
This is a herding dog.
Herding dog, okay. If it's a herding, does it actually have anything to herd? The question is it eating anything that whatever it's herding there is eating? In other words, it's eating bovine feces or sheep feces or something like that? Is there anything else that's going on? Are you giving treats?
Do you think that weather could affect this as well?
Oh, yeah, sure. So with weather, if it's really cold and you're feeding the exact same amount, they'll lose weight. And if it's really hot and you don't have to keep warm and you're feeding the exact same amount, then you gain weight. So there may be a seasonality to it. A herding dog is outdoors. And so, how this is, if it's really cold outside, we put more clothes on. Dog doesn't have that option. So the dog is what the dog is. So the dog's going to have to generate enough heat to keep himself warm. And it's more important for him to stay warm than it is for him to stay fat. So
okay. That's a good answer.
So the weather would certainly have something to do with that.
Wonderful. Moving on to the next question. This is from Mark. He says, what was Dr. Pete's favorite song to sing when he fronted all those bands way back when? Okay, so you used to give some history on this.
So I was I went to vet school, and I got started in vet school, and we were in there about 6 months. And it come to find out there were some people in the class that had been in bands. I'd never been in a band, so these guys learned, guys and girls learned, I think 5 songs. We had a party and they played the 5 songs. They took a break and played the same 5 songs in a different order. Again, so during one of these things, after people had had enough to drink, where they like, is anybody in the audience know how to do anything? So I said, I got a couple tunes I can do, and I did my couple tunes, and they said, oh, why don't you just be our lead singer? You know how to do this. Or
Did you know how to play an instrument?
No, I don't know how to play any instrument. So that's they were like, what key do you want to do this in? I'm like, hell, I don't know what key I want to do this in. And so you started anyway. So this kind of was fun because what we did, we'd, study on weekends. And when we got done studying, sometimes we'd all get together and learn a couple songs. And then by the time we got out of vet school, we knew about 70 songs we'd been playing in bars and fraternity houses and all that sort of stuff. So it was kind of fun. We had a good time. We tried to learn songs that were easy. And of all the songs that we played, my favorite song was "I Got a Line on You" by Spirit.
Okay.
And I think maybe I've talked about this song before, but anyway, the guy who sang that was named Randy California. And Randy California was called Randy California because he was a guitar player for Jimi Hendrix. And Jimmy had two guitars, Randy, whatever his name was. He called him Randy Texas and Randy California.
To keep them separated?
Yeah, I don't think Randy Texas was too infatuated with his song, but Randy California liked his name, his moniker, and so he changed his name to Randy California. So he was the founder of Spirit, and "Got a Line on You" is probably my favorite song. It's a snappy song, moves along, easy to sing.
I like it.
It tells a story. Yep. Fun song.
Right.
Yep.
All right, this next one is from Christine. My 3-year-old dog is overweight. How do I help her get in better shape? She is totally food motivated.
Okay, well, this sounds like a question for Weight Watchers or Jenny Craig, but it's just
We don't make a Jenny Craig diet. Sorry.
We don't make a Jenny Craig diet. So the thing you do is you limit the number of calories. You figure out what your dog weighs, and so you could. There's a formula to figure out what your caloric needs, what they call your resting caloric needs. In other words, if your dog was going to sit on a waterbed and watch Bewitched all day long, and that's all that dog was going to do, they don't need much in the way of calories. So obviously, the more exercise you get, the thinner you get. Mm-hmm. You got to look at your calories and see how many calories you need. And there's a few things that can occur above and beyond your control. Thyroid function, those sorts of things. Does your dog have a really low thyroid? Is the metabolism real low? Is this dog a couch potato? I just had a dog that I looked at that had chronic skin conditions. And I said, let's just run chemistries and see what you got. I mean, we've frogged around with this dog for a year now. So we ran a chemistry profile of dog's hypothyroid. That's why he keeps getting skin infections. And those dogs generally show up chubby because their metabolism's so slow. So they eat 1,000 calories and they just don't ever burn them up because they're only driving down the road at 12 miles an hour. They're not using much. They're not using much gas. So what you have to do is you have to figure out how many, and it says on the bag, and then you got to figure out how many treats you're feeding. So you got to go through the day and look at everything. What am I giving my dog? He just gets a couple of milk bones. Well, how many milk bones does he get? Oh, what'd I say? A couple? I know what you said, but you weren't looking me in the eye when you told me what you told me. So look me in the eye and tell me how many dog biscuits your dog eats. And, how many milk bones does your dog eat?
It probably totals up. You don't think about it throughout the day.
They finally tell you, well, maybe 7 or 8. I said, well, what in the hell are we talking about a couple for if it's 7 or 8 dog biscuits?
A couple's only 2.
Yeah, so you have to feed a low caloric diets. My favorite thing for chubby dogs for treats are like ice cubes. There's not many calories in an ice cube. And then my other favorite thing is to use green beans, canned green beans with the salt in them. People are like, I got the salt-free one. So I said, who the hell would eat a salt-free anything? I mean,
I eat green beans out of the garden.
Well, I inadvertently got salt-free cashews the other day. Big mistake. And Sharon doesn't think so. That's my wife. She thinks that's a great idea, the salt-free crap. Why? Because it keeps you
low sodium?
Low sodium, no hypertension, blah, 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 blah.
She also doesn't think you should chew gum.
Yeah, I know.
Because it has aspartame or whatever it's called.
Yeah. She has a whole litany of stuff she thinks shouldn't happen. Anyway, I pay no attention, do what I want to do, eat what I want to eat. And for the most part, I don't have any problems. But I would say this. If you want to lose weight, you eat things that don't have very many calories. Green beans don't have very many calories.
I see.
Now, my other favorite thing is and the ice cubes, and then cucumbers, they don't have very many. But when you get into carrots, they got a lot of sugar in them. Bananas have calories in them. Apples have calories in them.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
Simple sugars, yep. So you want to avoid the simple sugars. So you can fix this. You can fix this, and here's what I do. I think you find a place in your town where they have a set of scales, and you put your dog on the set of scales every once in a while. If it's a working dog, it might be kind of dirty. It might be not kind of dirty. I don't know. Maybe you don't want your dog in the car going in the pet store. But anyway.
You could always get on a scale at home and hold your dog and then just subtract your weight.
Yeah, you could do that if you can
That's what I do.
You can hold your dog. And if it's a Great White Pyrenees or a Great or something like that, you may not be able to hold it and see what it weighs. But that's the answer. Figure out how many calories you're feeding every day. Look at you'll say in there, so many calories per cup, 371 calories per cup. Mm-hmm. And then figure out what your dog weighs. So then you know. And really, if you want to figure out what the resting caloric needs, you want to figure it out based on what you want your dog to weigh. So if your dog weighs 120, don't put in, 30, or let's see, 120, that'd be probably 55 kilograms. So if you want your dog to weigh 80, put in 80 pounds, which will give you about 36 kilograms.
Okay.
And do it based on what you want your dog to weigh. And then make sure you get exercise.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, next question is from Jenny. Our lab and corgi, who love Voyager dog food and treats, take HeartGuard Plus and NexGuard. I've read they should not be given together, but about 1 week apart. What is the best way to administer these?
Okay. And I know what somebody's thinking here.
I didn't know that they were supposed to be taken apart, by the way.
No, they're not supposed to be taken apart. No.
So so her information is incorrect.
Yes, what she read was wrong. It probably old information. A lot of times if I send somebody something home for the very first time, I'll say, why don't you give one now and give one another one a couple days later. So if you had a reaction to it,
you'd know which one is the reaction.
You'd know which one it was. But quite frankly, now they make NexGuard Plus, which has the heartworm preventative. It's not HeartGuard. It's moxidectin. It's not ivermectin. It's moxidectin. It's the heartworm preventative. So now they've got those two drugs together. So that's the way you would get NexGuard Plus, everything all in one. Trio, all in one.
I love Trio.
The Elanco people are coming out with something called Quattro, Cordelia Quattro or something. Yeah. So they're going to have something all in one. So everybody will have something all in one. So it's going to be based on what you're going to do. You know what? And they all have very similar properties. I think sometimes price will play a big part of this,
yes.
what they cost and what the spiffs are, and that sort of thing. So, but no, you don't need to give those things apart. You know what? And when you give them apart like this, you have to do it the same way each time, each month. And then it's just another damn thing to do. So I would just give them, and they give you little stickers in the box, and then you put the little sticker on the. It's like going to
the
oil,
calendar.
Yeah, it's like the oil change place. They put a sticker. Hey, Claude, here's when you go ahead and get your oil change next. Okay.
Yep.
Don't ignore the sticker. And so when you put the sticker, a lot of people just do it the first of every month, and I can tell you that because we refill a whole bunch of that stuff the first of every month. Mm-hmm. But some people are on the 15th of every month. And sometimes what they did was they waited till March 15th to start or February 15th to start.
What happens if you overlap? Like, say I gave my dog Simparica Trio on the 1st or like the 15th of that month. Mm-hmm. And then the next month I gave it on the 1st.
Well, you can do that, but there's no real reason to. Because there's a little bit left. All those things have half-lives. So think if I gave you $100 and half of it went away every 15 days. So in 15 days, you'd have $50, and then in another 15 days, you had $25.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then you give another $100, and you got $125. So it builds up over time.
Okay. You ready for the next question?
Sure.
This one is from CJ. This is a long one, so long-winded. I'm writing to you from Maine with the concern of my 6-year-old male Great Pyrenees Yeti. That's a cute name for a Great White Pyrenees. We retired him as a livestock guardian dog 2 years ago and have since transitioned him to an indoor lifestyle. However, we've noticed a persistent issue with his stomach that affects him a couple weeks a month. Here's some history. At least once a week, Yeti's stomach would grumble loudly, and during these episodes, he would refuse to eat. If he does manage to eat, he will have loose, mucus-filled stools. Occasionally, he would vomit, producing a yellow, foamy mucus. Bile. Yeah. These episodes usually last once a day. Our veterinarian is at a loss to explain the cause of the issue and does not seem to have happen consistently. We've tried various sensitive stomach foods over the past 2 years and nothing has seemed to help. About a year ago, we switched Yeti to Voyager, wholesome farm and chicken recipe, and we've noticed a significant reduction of his stomach growling. His stomach now grumbles once or twice a month.
Okay.
Apart from the issue, Yeti appears to be happy and healthy. He is not neutered, but has a vasectomy. Do they do that with dogs?
Some people do.
Why?
Well, they want the dog to have drive.
Okay. He spends most of his time...
Some women do that to their men too, but anyway, there you go.
Yeah, it never happened to you?
No.
He spends most of his time indoors and doesn't tend to eat anything other than the food we provide to him. He is also not exposed to any other dogs. I'm not sure if there's been an issue or if the issue has been a problem for a long time, as Yeti has lived outdoors on the farm for a while before we brought him indoors. We take him for a yearly blood test since his sister, littermate, passed away from organ failure 2 years ago. After reading about copper poisoning, she exhibited many of the symptoms, which led us to switch Yeti to Voyager. His recent blood tests have come back to normal. I would greatly appreciate your advice on how to address the issue to ensure Yeti's well-being. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay. So we go to start.
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. So we go to start, and probably the first thing you do is you send a stool sample and make sure Yeti doesn't have whipworms or
it kind of sounded like
whipworms or roundworms. Yeah. I don't think that's what this dog has, but that's what you have to do. You have to eliminate that. So
okay. So that would be the first thing that you would do.
You take a stool sample and take it into the, and you might have the complete profile done. They make these PCR tests now where you can test everything for weird stuff and not so weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so you got this a herding dog, so the weird stuff is definitely on the platter. So you could have the weird stuff. And I can't remember what you get out of here, but you get like 25 or 24 things that you check for. And then once that's negative, then it's negative. Now we can go on. Now, here's what I think. So Yeti has mucus in the stools and is vomiting bile. So that
adverse
means
food reaction.
Adverse food reaction, exactly. So this goes from the rectum to the mouth. So you've got disease from the rectum to the mouth. So when you get this mucus in the stools, what you have in the colon is you have goblet cells, which produce mucus. And they're the same cells that produce the mucus in your nose, although hard to think of your nose and your rectum having a lot of the same stuff going on. But that's in fact, they make mucus out of there so Yeti can have good stools, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of greased up, so everything comes out.
Wow,
okay.
Learning so much.
Yeah, we're learning so much. So anyway, but this dog has it all the way to the front to the back. So the technical term for this would probably be eosinophilic plasmacytic enteritis, which means you're having adverse food reaction. So whatever you were feeding to Yeti, Yeti liked it probably, but it did not like Yeti. And that's what we always talk about this. It's nice if your dog likes our food, but it's one hell of a lot nicer if the food likes your dog. So I would say that is what you want to do. You want to go ahead and find usually something that has pretty simple one protein source, and it's usually the protein source that you're allergic to. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean it has to be animal protein. We think there's a fair number of dogs that maybe have wheat gluten allergies. We think there's a fair amount of dogs that have milk allergies or cheese allergies or things like that, dairy allergies. So my question to this person would be, has Yeti ever had ear infections before? If Yeti's had ear infections, that makes it even more likely to be what's going on. Because if I look at 100 dogs at the veterinary clinic that have ear infections, 25 to 30 of them will have some GI issues. I was doing a study one time, just to tell you, this is kind of funny because I was doing this study, an ear study, and people brought this dog in and had a bad ear. And I said, so they did the study, we used the stuff, it worked to get rid of the ear infection. And when I got done, I said, well, if you have ear infections, it's probably a food allergy. And so what I would do, and they told me what they were giving for treats, so I took all that stuff away. I said, just take all this stuff away. I gave them, I think, a little dexamethasone or some Vetalog, steroid to cool everything off, get everything cooled off. And then they come back a month later, we're having a problem with our dogs now. And I went, what's the problem with your dog? Well, he can't poop anymore. I said, what do you mean he can't poop anymore? He only has one bowel movement a day, so this is not like him. And
that's normal.
That's normal. Yeah, that's normal. I said, well, how many poops a day was your dog having? 5 to 6. So I said, well, once we fixed the adverse
my
food reaction,
God.
it didn't have all the diarrhea. So
that normal,
yeah.
it's a normal for them because
Yeah.
they think that this is the normal.
Right.
Five.
Well, and they said, well, our dog's never had diarrhea. And I'm like, well, when he has a bowel movement or she has a bowel movement, can you pick it up with a paper towel? No, you can't pick it up with a paper towel. It's more like soft serve ice cream. Well, that's not the way it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to pick it up with a towel. Really? Really? So this is probably an adverse food reaction, would be my guess. And a lot of times in our impression, our findings, and not maybe with Yeti, but with most dogs, they tend to be allergic to the treats, not the food. So if I had to give you a percentage, I'd say 15% of the time it's the food, 85% of the time, I'm good with the math, 15, 85, 80, 20, whatever, something like that. 80% of the time is if you're given an extensive number of treats. And I can always tell who you people are because, for one thing, when I ask you questions, you don't look at me, you look at the wall. And when you answer the questions, that's always when they look off in the distance. I know they're not telling me the
fibbing.
Truth. They're fibbing, but it's a
Seems silly to fib at the vet.
well. How does your dog? And when I even give them you want to give bananas? Try to give bananas. Well, he didn't like bananas. You want to give him pieces of apple. Well, he likes the granny apples, but he doesn't like the well. And they're going on and on. This dog likes this, doesn't like this, likes that, doesn't like that, and
Damn.
Well, and then I got to look at him and I go, well, how's your dog feel about ostrich meat? Well, he's never had ostrich meat. That's one of the few things he's never had. Excuse me. That's the problem with that dog. It's getting all these different things, and until you get it all scoped down to where you're on one thing, which it looks like they're on Voyager right now, and if they're on Voyager and they're getting along better, I'm going to guess this dog just has a real sensitive stomach. We just have to feed it stuff that makes his stomach not sensitive. And the cleaner you make this, so sometimes we have this great big list of everything that's in the dog food. That's not what you want anymore. You want something that's pretty simple. 10 or 12 things, 5 or 6 things, 9 or 10 things, just something like that. Make it and just dumb it down. And hey, listen, now what you're going to have to do is Yeti, if you change things, you got to change it for 30 days. You can't expect to change it for one day and see a difference. You can't expect to change for a week and see a difference. But when you change everything over, then wait 30 days and see what the hell you got.
Yep.
And if you're in a good place, you stay in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We just went down to the pet food store and we were looking at different dog different dog food bags, and they had a ton of ingredients in them that would just
well, people think that's the good. Oh, there's blueberries in here. Well, there's probably maybe 7/10 of a blueberry in this one. Not even a whole one. It's all the way down to where it's
or just the amount of proteins
it's
in
actually
the food
beyond the copper sulfate, beyond the copper protein. It's after that even.
Alrighty. Are you ready for the next question?
Sure.
This one is from Mike. Hello, Voyager. Could you touch on a proper diet for dogs that have recently had bladder stone removal by surgery? Okay. Would Voyager be the type of food for a dog who is diagnosed with bladder stones? A local vet recommended Royal Canin urinary SO food. We are not happy with that food.
Okay. Yeah, some things that are good for you don't taste good. But here's what I would do. My question to this person would be, did your dog have struvites? Or did it have calcium oxalates? Because they're two different things. A struvite stone occurs, and it's kind of like a smooth stone you might see by the seashore or something like that. Seashore, saw it by the seashore. Anyway, real smooth, and we just had one dog. We took, I think, 428 out of them. I mean, a lot of them are real little, but God, we counted them, and then we had a contest to see who in the clinic could name how many. They put them in a jar. Then you had to guess how many stones.
What was the reward?
I don't remember what they got. I placed second, I know that, and I was only off by 6 or 7. But I think it was 418 or 424. Anyway, something like that. Anyway, so you need to know whether they're struvite stones or whether they're calcium oxalates. So if they're calcium oxalates, obviously we got to minimize the amount of calcium in there. And so there are diets that are good for not getting calcium oxalates back. And probably the most common dog we see to get those are schnauzers.
Really?
Yeah, we see that all the time. So I need to kind of know what kind of stone that was. And usually...
And doesn't it have to do with the sex of the dog too?
Maybe, but not much. Usually the problem with calcium stones in male dogs is they start to go out and then they get caught at the penis. There's a bone in the penis, and they get down to the bottom where they're trying to get through the little hole into the kid.
And it can't.
You can't get in there, yeah, so you get an obstruction. You got those are a mess. You have to do urethrostomy, open that all up, get that damn stuff all out. Usually open the bladder up. It's an hour and a half deal. Anyway, so I don't know that I'd use the Voyager diets as urinary disease treatments because, quite frankly, we have a fair amount of calcium in there. And really, calcium's a good thing until it's not.
Right.
So I just need to know, were these calcium oxalate stones or were they struvite stones? The struvites, you get those because you had a long-term bladder infection, okay? So you manufacture those because there's the situation is they start to form because you have an infection in there. Mm-hmm. I got a story for those. I took one out of there. It looked like a bar of Irish Spring one time. And I put it in this. I had this jar. I put it in there, and I cleaned it all up and everything. And I washed it all off with surgery scrub and everything. I cleaned it up. And I'll tell you what, and I still got that thing because I used to take it to schools and stuff on career day, and then I'd open that thing up, and that damn thing smelled like hell. And what happens is bacteria get trapped in that stone when it's made. And I'll guarantee you, that stone, if we opened it up today, we could probably culture stuff out of the middle of that thing. Boy, did that thing reek.
I believe it.
Yeah, and you know how the little kids are. Yeah.
Ew.
Oh, not that. And we got that thing out, and it's in fact, the X-ray with the dog, they had the 424 bladder stones. I mean, that was a mess. That dog was doing fine. We palpated it. It came in for vaccines. We palpated it. Well, this is weird. And we felt all the bladder stones. So that afternoon, we took all the bladder stones out. And that's what the client said. Whoa, he urinates a lot better now. And those happen to be struvites. So that dog had a bladder infection for probably 2 years to make all those. Pretty incredible.
Saving the world one bladder stone at a time.
Well, and sometimes what happens is, and you'll see these every once in a while when somebody, especially the female dog, you'll walk the dog outside in the middle of the winter and it'll urinate or pee, whatever, right where the snow is, and you'll see the stones in the white snow. In the white snow, you'll see the bladder stones.
Okay, moving on to the next question, we have Eliza. How does the copper level in your food compare with prescription ID dog food?
LD?
LD. Sorry,
okay.
I thought it was ID.
I think LD, for the most part, has less in there. LD is a diet for portosystemic shunt dogs. That's, little Yorkies and stuff usually to get portosystemic shunts. A portosystemic shunt is something where the blood doesn't really go through the liver very well. It actually gets on a separate stream of blood and avoids the liver. Mm-hmm. So that what they do with those dogs is they'll limit the amount of protein because those dogs have a difficult time, processing the blood ammonia and turning it into blood urea nitrogen. So that's what they do, and they make what they did, and with this dog food, they just cut the copper. They completely removed the copper, and then said, well, it's not only a portosystemic food, it's a copper storage dog food. Well, it's really not a copper storage dog food because copper storage dogs need to have protein in their food, so it doesn't have enough protein. So they'll tell you, well, it's okay, you can just add protein. Well, so you want to buy a dog food and start adding chicken or beef or
right.
Who knows to it.
Yeah, and since the protein level is restricted.
Yeah, so we restrict ours. So ours is probably in the 7 range for copper, and their stuff is probably in the 3 range, maybe the 2 range.
Parts per million.
And I'm not too sure how well they monitor their stuff, to be honest with you. I would assume they did, but I don't know that they do. And so I would, they got an 800 number on the can or the bag, just ask them what they're doing. What is it? And and if you... here's what we did. I mean, we would do stuff, and I've done this before, where we actually send the food in and have it analyzed ourselves and see if what they're telling us is true.
Okay. Last question. You ready? Mm-hmm. I'm going to butcher this name. It's E-L-E-I. Eli?
Yeah.
Eli? That's just an interesting way to spell it. Recently, a lot of owners are doing rotational feeding where they swap protein sources, texture of the meal, or even brands to keep the dog food interesting and prevent intolerances. What are your thoughts on this?
I think if you're If you're intolerant to something, you switch foods. But really, once you get into, I could answer this in really one sentence. It's like, if you're happily married, don't get a divorce. Okay? If you're happily married, don't get a divorce. So if your dog's in a happy place, or your dog's eating something that your dog likes and it likes your dog, I would keep feeding that. Now, and really, sometimes I hear this story from people, and I look at their dog, and it's 15 pounds overweight. And I think what happens is we sometimes have clients that have endorphins released because their dog likes the food really well. And sometimes when you change it and change it and change it and change, hey, listen, if I had my way, I'd have hot German potato salad every night.
You get sick of it.
Well, there's a lot of bacon grease in that stuff. So here's what would have happened. This podcast wouldn't be here right now because I'd have died of a coronary 19 years ago if I'd eaten German potato salad with a lot of bacon and stuff in it every single day. I love that stuff, but I don't know that I think it would kill you. That's right. So I find a good, healthy dog food, or I find something, and really, I'm not sure you'd like me very well because I'm kind of boring. I have tomato soup for lunch a lot of days, and then sometimes I get a different soup, and I'm like, oh.
Potato soup with hot sauce.
With hot sauce, and I think I should have had the tomato today. But I think if your dog's on something that's complete and balanced, you stay on the complete and balanced thing. I think if you want to change something around, change the treats around a little bit from time to time. But I think if you're on that food, because we just got done talking about Yeti a few minutes ago, and Yeti's on something right now, one of our foods, and Yeti's doing well on our food, so I think she's going to leave it on our food, and that's what I think. She shouldn't get a divorce from Voyager dog food. And if you're happily married, you shouldn't get a divorce either. And I think that's the way it is. And I see all sorts of people walk in my clinic that are changing, doing this, doing that, doing this. And I said, so your maid outfit that you're wearing, what size is that? And it's an 8. Oh, it looks like you look good in the maid's outfit at 8. But they're kind of catering to the dog, and I really want to feed the dog something that's good for the dog, not necessarily something that the dog wants.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. Yeah. I like that.
Yep.
Well, that was your last question.
Yep.
I enjoyed it.
Now I'm going to go see a divorce lawyer. We'll see. I've kind of convinced myself to do that. But.
Yeah. No, I really like this segment where people answer questions.
Well, this is what I do at work, and sometimes I should tell you this. This is what I do at work. People come in, they have questions. I deal with it. What we sell at work is information and peace of mind. And information and peace of mind. So we did that today. And hey, thanks for everybody who answered our email, because I think it's a lot of fun doing these. And I think that's probably we should keep doing these.
Yes.
And when I run out of questions, I never will.
And we would love for you to keep tuning into our podcast and keep submitting questions. If you do have any questions you'd like to submit, you can actually send them right to my email, molly@voyagerdogfoodco.com.
And if you think some of the answers were lame,
you can complain to Pete.
No, complain to Molly. Okay.
Okay. You can complain to me. Let's get some outro music going.
Okay. This is Motown.
Yep.
Yeah, we're in the state of Michigan, and
Detroit, baby.
Yeah, about 100 miles east of here is where they did this song. So.
All right, guys. We sure appreciate you listening along today with us, and we hope that you've been able to share some information that will help you love your animals as much as they love you. Don't forget, always treat the treatable and prevent the preventable, and we will catch you guys on the next one.
Very good.